Welcome back. Housing inventory is still increasing. So for example, Redfin just posted on Thursday that housing supply, or the amount of houses for sale on a national level, increased by 5%. That's the biggest yearly increase in about 1 year. It says the supply of houses for sale is picking up in time for the spring home buying season, and improving inventory is attracting some buyers. We'll look into that here in a little bit. The total number of houses for sale, or housing inventory, climbed 5%, the biggest year-over-year uptick since May of 2023. New listings, in fact, rose by 15% from 1 year ago. That was the biggest yearly increase since June of 2021. So this lock-in effect in which homeowners have these very low rates in which they don't want to sell their houses seems to be easing somewhat, because new listings rose by the biggest yearly increase since June of 2021. Pretty wild. Let's talk about some leading indications of our U.S. housing market, and then we'll talk about home prices, housing inventory, and much, much more. So the daily rate, according to Redfin, is at 7.03%. When actually opening this up, though, as of Thursday, the daily rate is actually at 6.96% on March 21st. That's a small increase of 21 basis points compared to a year ago, when the daily rate 1 year ago was at 6.75%. Getting back to Redfin's report here, they're talking about application numbers. So the amount of people submitting loan applications to buy houses, very much a forward-looking indicator of close home sales in the coming months here. Was down by 1% compared to the previous week, but it rose by 9% from a month ago. Having said that, though, the amount of applications for home loans to buy houses for existing houses is down by 14% on a year-over-year basis. One thing I want to point out that Redfin didn't touch on in this report here is that the amount of people submitting loan applications to buy brand new houses is surging. So the resale market, existing houses compared to the new home construction industry, is night and day difference here. So down 14% for existing houses. Look at this though. MBA, this is according to the MBA, as of March 19th, just a couple days ago, based on their survey. They basically survey builders across the nation for February. And that showed that applications for home loans for new home purchases increased a whopping 15.7% from February of 2023. So quite the dichotomy we have in our U.S. housing market, because new home construction numbers are going up, whereas existing home sales are not going up at the same rate. As I mentioned in previous videos, one of the reasons why we are seeing this uptick in sales of new home construction is because builders are still offering incentives to home buyers. Like I mentioned in my previous video last week, I mentioned how in my area, which is Sacramento area, a lot of home builders in my area are offering at least a $10,000 closing cost credit if you buy a house or a new house with a home builder, which overall is what we're seeing on a national level as well. Builders offering these incentives to home buyers, and therefore that's causing a rise of demand and also sales for brand new home construction. Also, Redfin's home buyer demand index rose by 8% from a month ago, but still down by 5% from a year ago. This is an index they have which measures the amount of requests they receive for home buying services, such as home tours, for example. Meanwhile, Google searches unchanged from last month and down a whopping 18% year over year. Home touring activity, I want to show the most recent trends we have. This is according to showingtime.com. Showingtime.com is what some real estate agents use in order to gain access to houses that are for sale, so they can tour those houses with their home buyers. So showingtime.com, look at the most recent trends we have. Let me just zoom in right here. So for the week ended March 20th, the amount of real estate showings across North America increased by 29.2% compared to the first week this year. Compare this to last year this time, we were up by 19.2% compared to the first week last year. So overall, we're seeing applications increase, but not from a year ago. We're also seeing real estate showings also increase as well. So let's see if this actually has been translated to an increase in prices and also home sales as well. So let's talk about that. This is for the 4 weeks ended March 17th this year. So the median sold price, according to Redfin, for this time frame was at $374,000. That's an increase of 5.3% on a year-over-year basis. That's the biggest increase since October of 2022, except for the 4 weeks ended February 11th, when there was a 5.4% increase. So overall, prices up by more than 5%. Let's take a look to see how this compares to previous years, going back to 2021. I really wish Redfin's data center would show data from 2019, for example, but they only give us back the past several years here. Anyways, looking at prices right now, up by 5% year over year. Quite the turnaround from a year ago. So 1 year ago at this time, which is right about there, prices were down 1% compared to the same time frame in 2022. Now we're up by 5%. So prices rising faster right now compared to last year at this time. Also, of course, we're much higher compared to the same time frame in 2021 when we were only at $310,000 on a national level. Now we're at $374,000. All right, let's get back to Redfin's report here and talk about average monthly mortgage payments, because that increased by 8.5% from 12 months ago. This is only $31 per month shy of the all-time record highs that was set back in October of 2023. What happened in October? In October, the average rate or average 30-year fixed rate for people with great credit was at over 8%. Now the daily rate is around 7%. So pretty astonishing to see that we're very close to all-time record highs for average monthly housing payments, even though the average mortgage rate is about 1 percentage point less than October 2023. Therefore, one of the reasons, or the main reason why we're very close to all-time record highs is due to the rise in prices, even though rates have decreased from October of 2023. So let's take a look at a chart going back to 2021 for that. Average monthly housing payment at $2,685 per month. Again, an increase of 8.5% year over year. Also much higher compared to 2021 this time. Well, at that time, your average payment was around $1,600 per month. Now it's at nearly $2,700 per month. That's crazy, right? About $1,000 more per month to buy a median price home today compared to the same time frame in 2021. Also very close to the all-time record highs that was set back in October, around late October of 2023. Redfin also shared the areas in which home prices have increased the most and also the areas in which prices have decreased the most. In the previous report, they announced that not a single metro of the 50 most populous metros was down on a year-over-year basis. But that changed again this month or this week, because San Antonio, Texas, the only metro of the 50 most populous metros that is down, and it decreased by 1.5%. In contrast, though, 49 of the 50 are up. The biggest increase, look at this, San Jose, California, giant increase of nearly 19%, and your average home price well over $1 million there as well. Wild. Miami, Florida, up by 15.6%. West Palm Beach, Florida, New York, New Jersey, and Anaheim, all around a gain of 15% year over year. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about the changes in pending home sales, a measure of offers being accepted, and also newly listed houses and housing inventory. In other words, the balance between demand, pending home sales, and supply, housing inventory. Because they're basically moving in the opposite direction here, which is something we should pay attention to. So pending home sales decrease by 4.4%. So approximately 4% fewer contracts being signed right now compared to a year ago, but new listings surging by 15.1%. So if this were to happen, a big increase of new listings in the early parts of 2022, we would see a huge spike of contracts being signed simply due to the fact there's more inventory hitting the market. But we're seeing just the opposite, right? New listings surging by 15%, yet contracts being signed decreasing by 4.4%. So supply outpacing demand. In other words, house inventory or active listings rose by 5%, the biggest increase since May of 2023. Let's have a closer look at this at pending sales, and then we'll look at new listings and then house inventory compared to the past several years. So pending home sales down by 4.4%. But look at that though. Pending sales are at least a 3-year low during this time frame. So a lack of contracts being signed. In contrast, look at this. New listings surging by 15.1%, even though they're below levels in 2022 and 2021. Also, something I found to be interesting as well is that we're up by 15.1% right now, but about 1 month ago, we were only up by 8.4%. So the rise of new listings is increasing faster compared to 2023. Now, this is one of the reasons why house inventory is increasing, because we're seeing more new listings hitting the market. So active listings up by about 5%. And has been increasing more or less all year. Whereas last year, this time, inventory was actually decreasing. So the gap between this year and last year is actually getting more wide. In other words, more houses available for sale for home buyers. On top of that, inventory levels is at least a 3-year high as well. In fact, when looking at the same levels in 2021, look at this. Right now, around 795,000 homes for sale. During the same time frame in 2021, there was around 629,000. This means we have approximately 26% more homes for sale compared to the same time frame in 2021. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens for the remainder of the year, because we continue to see this huge increase of new listings, yet we're seeing a decrease of pending home sales. That's going to increase supply further, which will put downward pressure on prices. So of course, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, and I'll definitely keep you posted with the latest developments. Getting back to Redfin's report here, let's have a look at the number of newly listed houses and how each of the 50 most populous metros fare. So there's only 2 of the 50 biggest cities in which the number of new listings decreased compared to 1 year ago. That was Atlanta, Georgia, and also Chicago. In contrast, look at this. Giant increase of new listings in San Jose, California, up by 40%. Phoenix, Arizona, up by 31.9%. Sacramento, California, where I live and work as a realtor, up by 30%. Tampa, Florida, up by 28%. And Miami, Florida, up by nearly 28% as well. So a huge increase of new listings in these metros. In regards to the month supply on a national level, the month supply is at 3.4 months. Has been going down ever since February, which is seasonal. That should happen every single year. Looking at this chart though, at 3.4 months, this is at least a 3-year high during this time frame. So for example, 2022, the month supply was only around 1.8 months. Now it's at 3.4 months. 3 more slides I want to share with you guys here, because the share of price drops has been surging. It's at 5.7%, which is at least a 3-year high during this time frame. Has been basically going straight up here, much different than what happened in 2023, because from February through mid-March, the share of price drops were decreasing, whereas this year, basically going straight up. Also, let's have a look at the average sale price to final list price ratio. That's at 98.7%. This means on average, for the houses that did close or where the sales were finalized, they sold for 1.3 percentage points below the seller's final list price. This is much lower compared to 2022. when at that time, houses were selling for about 1% over. Now they're selling for about 1.3 percentage points below. This is still slightly higher from last year this time though. Last year this time, houses were selling for about 2% below the seller's asking price at around 98%. And lastly, here's a look at Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index. Remember, it increased according to them from 1 month ago, but again, it's down from a year-over-year basis. On top of that, it's at least a 3-year low during this time frame. In other words, the amount of requests that Redfin is getting for home tours and other home buying services is at least a 3-year low during this same time frame. But what's your biggest takeaway from today's video? Thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate you. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.